See. All right. So thank you, Allie, for coming in today and helping us out with this. And so everybody, if you wouldn't mind just muting yourselves if you haven't already. And if you have any questions, please feel free to write them down or hold them to the end. Or if it's for clarification for a slide, go ahead and unmute yourself to ask the question or ask me via the chat box function if you are logged on the computer. So. All right, and with that, we'll let Allie go ahead and get started and introduce herself.
Thanks, Colin. Thanks for bringing me in today, and thanks everyone for listening in. You'll have to excuse my voice. As I was telling Colin earlier, I have some sort of sinus crud, so I might be clearing my throat more often than normal. As Colin mentioned, I'm Allie Jones. I have worked for the National Military Family Association for almost 3 years, running our military spouse scholarship program that has actually recently expanded to our spouse education plus professional support efforts. My connection to the military comes in two forms. My grandfather was a Navy man, and my husband is currently active duty Army. As I was chatting earlier, we're actually moving in the next month, and it will be our 5th address in only 3.5 years of marriage, so we're quickly racking them up. And I'm quickly forgetting where I last lived. But that's just my little brief history. Before we get into the education and employment resources side of things, I want to give just a brief history of our association. We were founded in 1969 by military widows when they realized their lack of benefits. Our association's highest priority is to fight for military families. We fight to protect the programs and services that allow families to meet the challenges of military life and to maintain readiness. We support the families of the 7 uniformed services, including all ranks and components being Guard and Reserve. The 7 services, I'm sure everyone knows: Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, and the 2 that people forget are the Public Health Service and the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, referred to as NOAA. So we serve all 7, which is unlike DOD. DOD does not include Coast Guard, Public Health, or NOAA. We are the leading nonprofit organization with decades of expertise in family issues. We use our program work to support our advocacy mission, which is really at the heart of our association. We are the go-to group for members of Congress, the DOD, the White House, and several military families, obviously. Our first legislative priority and lobbying effort was executed by those military widows that I mentioned in support of the Survivors Benefit Plan. That's one of the first things we were kind of behind. A few other things that we were behind was the creation of the DOD Office of Family Policy, the Military Coalition, also referred to as TMC, Women, Infant, and Children Overseas, so getting the WIC program implemented overseas, and the Interstate Compact on Educational Opportunities for Military Children, which just in the last year, I think, has been passed now in all 50 states. So on to military spouses and what we know about them. For the past year, there has been, and there is now, a noticeable gap in income between armed forces spouses and their civilian counterparts. So what do we know? Spouses are underemployed, meaning they're taking jobs that are below what their educational level is. They've been denied unemployment benefits. Majority of them are in school. They're using multiple institutions to complete their education. Actually, 23% have used 3 or more institutions to complete a degree. 50% indicate that their chosen career field, requires some sort of certification or licensure, which I'll talk a little bit about licensure later on. This is a good stat that I feel like everyone knows. The unemployment rate for military spouses is nearly 26%, which is more than 3 times the national average. And if you are employed, spouses are making 38% less than their civilian counterparts. Other stats, 32% have had problems with transferring credit, 90% report being underemployed, 17% of spouses are currently in school. And we can all attribute these stats, and you all know they're due to PCS moves, licensing requirements, deployment, separation, the challenges with reintegration, and just an overall lack of opportunities for military spouses. So what is out there to help level the playing field for spouses? The DoD has a few programs available for spouses pursuing education. And I want to start with SECO, which stands for the Spouse Education and Career Opportunities. To address military spouses' unique combination of work-life interests and priorities, the DoD has established what they call a comprehensive, holistic, spouse-centered program, referred to as SECO. And it's a part of DoD's commitment to overall spouse health and well-being. And in SECO, you can search for information on portable careers, get started on your education, finalize a resume, or assist yourself in career planning. One thing that I love about SECO, and anyone who comes to me about education, I always refer them to their scholarship finder, and I was talking to Colin a little bit earlier about this. It's just a great place to go when you're starting out and when you want to figure out what scholarships are out there, and they use a good filtration technique, so you can fill in your spouse's branch, rank, the education type that you're pursuing, whether it's like a certification or a certain degree, and it will filter out all the offers that you might not be eligible for, so you don't have to sift through things that doesn't pertain to you. So I think it's a great place to just get started. Anyone who is going back for a degree or trying to increase their education one way or another and is looking for scholarships, the SECO Scholarship Finder is a great place to start. Next, we have MyCAA, My Career Advancement Account Scholarship Program, set up by the DoD. And this program provides up to $4,000 in tuition assistance to eligible military spouses pursuing an occupation or career with transferable and portable skills. Eligible spouses must be married to a service member in the pay grade of E1 through E5, O1 to O2, and W1 to W2, and the spouse has to be, or the service member spouse has to be on Title 10 orders, meaning active duty, or if you're a Guard and Reserve component, you have to be activated. MyCAA supports military spouses pursuing a license, a certification, or an associate's degree. It's alarmingly underused. DoD recently paid for a RAND study on the MyCAA program. It was something like 25% of spouses had never heard of it. And the program is not necessarily competitive. If you're eligible, you get those funds. So unlike other scholarships, you're not competing or trying to beat out other people that are applying. If you are eligible, you're an eligible spouse, your spouse falls in those ranks that I mentioned, and your program is eligible, then that money is there for you to use. Not every, like I mentioned, not every school or certification program will be accepted through MyCAA, but they have done a good job expanding the approved program list, so to speak. But many programs still might not fit the bill. But beyond that, it's still a tremendous benefit for spouses that needs to be known and it needs to be shared. So talk it up. Anyone that you think would be interested or eligible, make sure they know about it because it's free money if you're eligible. I think it's awesome. So everyone here has probably heard of the GI Bill, but not everyone knows that it is able to be transferred. Active duty and or select reserve service members with 6 years of service may elect to transfer all or a portion of their post 9/11 GI Bill benefit to a spouse. In order to be eligible for this, transferees must be named while the service member is on active duty, but they can be removed at any time. So I always say if you think you might transfer it, have your spouse name you, and then if that's not the case down the road and the service member is going to go ahead and use it, then they can remove their elected transferee at any time. The service member must agree to serve 4 additional years from the date of naming in order to transfer their benefit. And then spouses who receive a transfer benefit are eligible for public in-state tuition. And also there's usually a living allowance and an annual book and supply stipend. The benefit must be used within 15 years of separation from active duty. And with the living allowance, if the spouse is using it while his or her service member spouse is on active duty, then you won't get the monthly living allowance. And transferability of the GI Bill is not an entitlement, therefore it's not divisible should a divorce occur. And additionally, if the service member does not meet the required length of service, they may have to pay back the benefit if it's already being used. Finally, another benefit that I want to talk about is in-state tuition for military spouses. Active duty military spouses are eligible to receive in-state tuition at public colleges and universities in the state where they reside or are permanently stationed for more than 30 days. Once a spouse is enrolled and paying in-state tuition, they will continue to pay in-state tuition as long as they remain continuously enrolled, even if their husband or wife is reassigned outside of the state. So if you're getting in-state tuition, but your PCS somewhere else, you still should be, and you're going to stay with that school, maybe you're taking online classes or whatnot, you should still be able to receive in-state tuition. And that is, I believe that's the law, so people should not be paying for out-of-state tuition if they have to move. Getting into licensure, for spouse licensing, I'd say the gold standard is an endorsement, and that is taking an existing license in good standing and honoring it in the new state. However, not all states are comfortable with this approach. Thus, there are two additional options, one being an expedited license, which means the spouse will be able to receive a license more quickly and perhaps not have to wait for a board member to approve it. Or there's also temporary licenses, which provide just that, a temporary license for the spouse to begin to work in the profession while waiting for a permanent license. None of the legislation fees are waived with these licensing requirements, so spouses are still required to pay the state-specific licensing fees. Our association has been actively involved with supporting spouse employment at the state level, including support for military spouses who require a state license to work, such as nurses, teachers, pharmacy aides, massage therapists, the list goes on and on. Actually, out of almost 10,000 applicants that we get for our spouse scholarship each year, the top two occupations are nursing and teaching, and those are two fields that require a license. So we do like to dedicate a lot of our time to that topic. And these careers, I mean, obviously they're appealing to military spouses because healthcare and education are relative really anywhere you live, and they are seemingly portable for that reason. However, the licensure requirement set up by each state, you know, does make the transition not as smooth as one would hope. If you're on our go-to meeting, I do have a slide that shows a map of the United States and what license requirements that they require, and you can find this map on our website, militaryfamily.org. So take a look at that if that's something that you may need. There are two programs specifically I wanted to talk about to help military spouses gain access to federal employment. They are not the same, and they do not apply to every military spouse. The first one is called the Military Spouse Preference. The Military Spouse Preference Program, also known as the Priority Placement Program or Program S, offers employment placement preference in DoD civilian personnel positions to military spouses who meet certain criteria. And the program applies to DoD vacancies only. The second program is called the Non-Competitive Appointment. Also, there's an executive order on it. And the non-competitive appointment allows military spouses to be hired without going through the competitive process. And to be eligible for it, the military spouse must meet the job qualification and have moved within the service member or have moved within 2 years. And they must be under PCS orders, or their spouse must be under PCS orders within the last 2 years. Widows or widowers of spouses or spouses of 100% disabled veterans are also eligible for the non-competitive appointment, and they do not have the 2-year limitation. We have people that I work with that specialize in these federal appointments and benefits, and if you need more information on those, I'll definitely be able to get you connected with one of our government relations deputies. Moving on. I want to get into resources for military spouses that are out there. One being, I already talked about SECO a little bit. The other one is MSEP, the Military Spouse Employment Partnership, and it's a digital recruiting platform similar to a job board that offers direct access to employers who want to hire military spouses. It's technically like a career partnership connecting military spouses with more than 260 partners who have agreed to employ or pledge to recruit, hire, and promote and retain military spouses in portable careers. So you go on to an MSEP and you can search, it's a job board, so you can search open positions. And all of these employers that are on there and these positions that are up there, those companies have made a pledge to hire military spouses. So many times you're applying for a job as a military spouse and you don't know whether or not to even say that you're a military spouse, because some people truly view it as a negative because they start thinking about the moving and you're not going to be here for long. And so these companies in MSEP have agreed to hire military spouses and they see it as a positive. So people looking for jobs, I think it's a great first place to go. And there's fabulous employers on there, really large corporations, smaller corporations. There's even opportunities for telework and working from home. Additional resources, if you're watching the slideshow, I have a slide up with a bunch of logos and a bunch of different organizations that are out there. If these organizations are on your radar, I would recommend checking them out online and getting to know which each one has to offer. And I'll give you a brief snapshot of each. Tutor.com for U.S. military families is actually funded by the DoD. That portion of it is. And it allows eligible students in U.S. military families to connect to a live tutor online at any time for one-on-one help with homework, studying, test prep, proofreading, and more. And the service is available at no charge, so it's a free tutor for K through 12 students and some adults in the active duty Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps families. Another tutor system or tutor organization is called Tutors by Base, and it's fairly new, and it employs military spouses and veterans as tutors in and around military communities. So if you're looking for a tutor, a personal tutor that you can meet with in person, Tutors by Base is kind of like a catalog of people that are around your area that are offering up their services as tutors. And then if it's also something that you were interested in as far as employment, they're hiring people that live close to military installations that are available to tutor other military spouses. Khan Academy, pretty popular. It offers practice exercises, instructional videos, and a personalized learning dashboard that empowers learners to study at their own pace in and outside of the classroom. Been around for a while, fabulous resource. You can go on there and get help with just a number of things, and it's free to use. We have the Military Spouse Corporate Career Network, MSCCN, and it is a nonprofit military employment assistance program with a network of employers who want to hire military spouses or transitioning service members. MSCCN provides employment counselors and free training workshops. So similar to MSEP, they have a list of people that want to hire military spouses. They go a little bit more beyond and have those counselors that you can talk to and the free training workshops that are available online. A lot of people have heard of Hiring Our Heroes. It's a nationwide initiative from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation, and it offers networking receptions, hiring fairs, and their newest tool called Career Spark, which is a new resume tool that will help translate your volunteer experience onto your resume. And Hiring Our Heroes has a specific military spouse program. They have, if you go online and go into their events calendar, there are so many networking events and career fairs specific to military spouses throughout the U.S., usually close to installations. And even if you're not in the job market, I just think the networking receptions are great to help build your portfolio and build your network of connections. And I think that's something that everyone should look into and at least experience once. Some mentoring and other networking programs. There's several different ones out there available to military spouses that provide mentoring, networking, and career support. Some of my favorite would be In Gear Career, the Military Spouse JD Network for lawyers, and the Mil Spouse E-Mentor program. These are all programs that have chapters around the U.S. that you can be involved with, and they do networking events, just social events also, but just great things too for anyone who wants to enter the workforce in the near future. Even if you're still finishing up school, I think it's smart to get involved with at least one of those mentoring programs to get a mentor or even to be a mentor. And then, of course, there's the Military Partners and Families Coalition that I have to shout out for, and I have that on there too, and you guys all know the great resources that they can provide. So on to NMFA and what I do and how our association may be able to help you. Our spouse education and professional support efforts include not only our scholarship program, but also our partnerships that we are developing in order to bring more scholarship offers to military spouses. Really, in summary, we're partnering with more colleges, more universities, and other organizations to bring you in-kind scholarships, if you will. And I'll get into that a little bit later. Our in-house scholarship program, originally named for our loyal volunteer, Joanne Halbrook Patton, provides funding for a variety of educational pursuits. If awarded, a scholarship can be used for traditional degrees of any level, associates, bachelor's, master's, even I have plenty of recipients that are getting their PhD. It can be online, in person, full-time or part-time, does not matter. You can use the scholarship funds for licensure, the fees that come with that, the exam costs. Some states might require you to take extra classes. If you're getting a mental health license, you may have to do required supervision, and our scholarship funds can go towards any and all of those things. Same goes for certifications, the program costs, the fees, the exams, or any required classes. The funds can also be used for a trade school or vocational school, and we've actually just started letting people use their funds for continuing education or just any class that aids in your professional advancement. That would help you, move on in your career or add to your resume. This year, we're giving out more than 450 scholarships that will amount to more than $450,000. The scholarships range from $500 to $2,500. The award amount depends on the educational pursuit and how much the recipient needs. So a license fee might only be $450, whereas a PhD program might be a little bit more, so we may be more entitled to award someone going for a degree a little bit more than someone going for a certification. But it just depends on how much the recipient needs. And also we have different donor requirements that we have to meet as well, so there's some restrictions there. Our funding for the program comes from donors, from individual donations, foundation grants that we apply for, and corporate giving. We do not accept government funds. The scholarship also does not have any restrictions as far as full-time, part-time, online, in-person. There are no GPA requirements or rank requirements. So this is unlike the MyCAA program where there's a lot of requirements on your program and your spouse's rank. Ours is wide open. It's available to any military spouse with a valid ID. The scholarship window is always December 1st through January 31st. So I always tell people to mark their calendars on those dates. And unlike MyCAA, our scholarship program is, I guess what you could say, a competitive program. as far as being awarded a scholarship. Because we don't have those eligibility requirements, it's not just you apply and then you get money. We do have a core of volunteers that judge the scholarship applications and help rank them for us so we know who to award. And our application is a pretty easy process. It's all online. You answer some demographic questions up front, but our judges don't even see those. We just use those for research purposes, and we hand them off to our government relations team so they can use for their advocacy missions. But you do have to answer one essay out of 2 different options, and then a couple short answer questions, and that's it, and that's all that gets judged. And that's how we rank and choose our recipients, is that essay and those short answer questions. And beyond our in-house scholarship program, spouses may be eligible for scholarships offered exclusively to registrants of an MFA by our partner colleges and universities. So if you go on to our website and check out our More Scholarship tab, you'll see a list of our partners. And then if you register with us, which is basically just giving us your email address, you'll be privy to more information of those offers. And you'll be able to see the full list of our partners, which not only include colleges like I mentioned, but we also recently have partnered with AUSA for a scholarship offer, or another example would be the Corvius Foundation. They've offered a scholarship to our registrants. We have lots of schools that are master's programs, the Washington School of Law, International Relations at American University. You can get money for a master's at Syracuse for either communications or accounting. We just partnered with Northwestern for a master's in counseling. And all the ones I mentioned, if you have registered with us and you have applied and been enrolled in those schools, they will give you at least $7,000 towards your degree. Those ones are not competitive. But then we do have partners like Western Governors University. They have a scholarship program, and then they have reserved 5 scholarships at $2,000 each for spouses that have registered on our site. And similar to that is Central Texas College. They have 2 scholarships at $2,000 for spouses that have registered on our site. We also have some money from North Carolina State, University of Alabama, University of Oklahoma, and a lot of these programs have online, so it's nothing like you have to be in person. You can be attending their online programs as well. We recently worked with Webster University to get a discount for all spouses that register with our site, and the discount equals up to 38% off retail tuition credit hour rates, and it's equal to what the active duty service members get at Webster. And so now the spouses that are registered with us can get that discount as well. And again, you can find all of that on our website under our scholarship tab and under the More Scholarships section. And as I wind down, I just want everyone to know that you can volunteer with us. I mentioned that we use volunteers to judge our scholarships. So if you're watching on the slides, you can see here kind of 5 reasons that we like people to volunteer with us. And you can ask me after if you are interested in volunteering with us. I also want to point out that we're on social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and YouTube. Our general Twitter account at Military Family, and we also have a scholarship and education specific Twitter handle, which is at NMSA Scholarship. Some of our employees also tweet. Our executive director, Joyce Razor, she's at NMSA Joyce, and then our volunteer director, our government relations peeps, they all have Twitter handles. So when they're on the Hill and they're attending different hearings or they're testifying, they'll tweet out good information. And then again, I highlighted the scholarship one since we tweet out education resources and employment resources from that one. And then just don't forget to check out our website, militaryfamily.org. Here's a couple of email addresses. If you guys do have specific questions, you can email me at ajones@militaryfamily.org. General information can be info@militaryfamily.org. And then again, we just list our Facebook and Twitter pages there because we put out great information. We do contests, and our Facebook's really fun. Facebook and Instagram's really fun. They'll do contests and giveaways for military families on there too, so it's always fun to be a part of as well. And really, that is all I have for today. I'm trying to keep it short and sweet so you guys can go about your afternoon this Saturday. So Colin, I can pass it back to you.
Right. Thank you so much for all that information. That is really, really helpful. I definitely know people will be using this kind of stuff. So, yeah, thank you so much. And I can open it up for questions. Does anybody want to get us started with any questions right now?
Yes. I had wondered, this is Amber, I had wondered if they have heard of the website Rat Race Rebellion for work at home opportunities, or Allie, have you heard of Rat Race Rebellion?
No, I have not, and I'm plugging it into my computer right now.
It's fantastic because there's a lot of scams for working at home, and
Definitely.
Rat Race Rebellion does a really good job of filtering out those scams. And so it's actual work at home job opportunities, and I know lots of spouses actually, many spouses who've actually been able to earn money through this website, Rat Race Rebellion.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks for sharing, Amber.
And I worked at, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to shout out the Rosie Riveter Network, the Riveter Network as well. And that's just a network of businesses, if you will, that are run by military spouses and military families. And they're small businesses, so they're not a ton of employment opportunities, but it's just a good thing, Riveter Network, to be aware of as well.
And I just wanted to say, if you shoot me an email, you could send it to amber@mpsc.org, or you could send it to my personal email. This doesn't matter. I used to work at an education center, and I also was a military family employment advocate for the state of Florida. So I'd be happy if if I'm able to volunteer to look over scholarship applications. I think I'd be qualified to do that. And I ran a graduate degree program for military, at a military installation before too. So I think I would, I'll see what I can do.
That's great. Can you say your email once again?
You can send it to Amber at MPSC, I'm sorry, milpsc.org.
Thank you.
And thank you, Amber. And I had a few more questions about more specific to the stuff in the slides. So you had mentioned the endorsement aspect of transferring your licensures. So I was wondering, is there like a central hub that you can go to find out which licenses a state endorses versus what they don't, or do you have to go through your own professional network?
Go first to our website and check out that map. And there is one other interactive map that I want to pull up. I'll have to email you what the website is. I'm kind of looking through it right now. But there are other sites, and I will find the website for you. And it talks about like the reciprocity of licensing. Usually the best way to go and the most accurate information will be on the state's websites as well, visiting each state and looking at it that way.
Okay.
Going to like their state government website. I know that's important to check out. And a lot of these endorsements or expedited reviews, a lot of the people that are in these offices that would implement these things actually might not know that they exist. I was having a conversation with one of our GR deputies that specializes in this, and I can share her information as well. But she said a lot of times you have to be armed with the information when you're trying to go through the endorsement process or the licensure process, because it has changed recently. There's legislation being passed constantly, and so if you arm yourself with, the laws that should be up on those state websites, you might be informing them, honestly. They might not be aware of it. So just arm yourself with those resources and that information from those state websites. And Colin, I'll try to get that website. I can get it maybe even added to the slideshow.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. And I did have one more kind of more specific question about about Khan Academy, which is one of the things that you had mentioned before. So personally, I use Khan Academy all the time to supplement, like a supplemental tutor for my classes. But how do you find out? So if you're going to try and use Khan Academy or another similar resource to help you to do a CLEP test, so if you are working to get your degree or a certification of some sort, and you're using that as your resource because it is free and it's a great resource, do you ask the college specifically for a syllabus so that you don't have to buy the CLEP test book and stuff like that? Or how do you go about using like these informal education to supplement formal education resources?
That's a good question. I think exactly what you said. I think working one-on-one with the schools and teachers in whatever program you're in to see what is coming up and what you would be able to supplement. I think going to the source, like you said, getting the syllabus would be where I would start, and then you could see for yourself and kind of compare what is on Khan and what is on the syllabus that you could do and you could supplement. And then just anyone at the school, counselors, academic counselors, I think they would be able to help. I think hopefully in today's age they know about Khan Academy. Maybe some of them don't. I would hope a lot of them do. And I think just having a conversation with them about it as well would help.
Okay, awesome. And does anybody else have any other questions right now?
I have a question for Mrs. Jones. This is Tracy. My questions are concerning, I'm at your website, and where it says valid military ID, I find, is that for retired military spouses? Because I find it difficult to find sources for military spouses that are retired.
Yeah, so our scholarships are open to spouses of retirees. And retiree meaning they've met the 20-year requirement or they've been medically retired. So if the spouse is just a spouse of a veteran, not just, but a spouse of a veteran who's separated from the Army and did not meet the 20-year requirement or wasn't medically retired, they're technically not retired, but they are a spouse of the veteran, and then in that case our scholarships are not available for them. But if you are truly a spouse or a retiree, you'll still have, or you'll still be able to have an ID from DEERS.
Correct.
And so if you are eligible for that, then you are definitely eligible for anything that we do in our scholarship program.
Great. And then do you know of any other resources or organizations that offer educational assistance to spouses whose veterans receive disability compensation but are not 100% rated disabled?
Are you talking as far as scholarships go or just educational?
Scholarships, grants, or anything in that range.
Yeah, I would use the SECO scholarship finder definitely, because when you're on there, you'll be able to select spouse of a retiree. And so it will give you specific scholarships that are available. And then what was the second part of your question?
Well, that most of them are for spouses or the veterans are 100% disabled, but I was looking for ones that were for spouses that were between like the 60 and 80.
Sure.
But at Cisco, it sounds like it would be very useful.
Yeah, I'm not sure specifically on ones that, use the VA rating. I do know our scholarships, we award scholarships to spouses of what we would call the wounded. And a lot of times we have a donor who specifically gives us money to give to spouses that are spouses of the wounded. So they do have a disability rating of, 50 or more, or even 20 or more. And so I always recommend applying for our scholarships, and we'll ask on our questionnaire and on our survey portion of our scholarships if you are a spouse of the wounded. And so we specifically ask that, so when we do have those funds, we can pull the spouses that fit that category and award them kind of separate from the general pool, making it a little less competitive as well for those spouses. And we do the same for spouses of fallen service members.
Well, thank you for your presentation today. It was very informative.
Oh, great. Thank you guys for joining in. I know I get long-winded sometimes, so I appreciate your patience with me. And I know sometimes it's hard to listen in for so long, but I'm just glad that Colin asked me to do this. And I am an open book, and if I don't know it, I know someone that will know the answer. So feel free to email me, ajones@militaryfamily.com, .org, and I will get you, what you need if you have any questions.
All right, wonderful. Thank you again, Allie, so much.